Hello, sir.
Hello, Prince.
Well done, sir. First of all, I would like you to introduce yourself and take us into your youthful days.
Thank you very much. I am Ntufam, Dr. Abu Solomon Edet. I come from a very wide community, a community of so many people that extends from Cameroon to Calabar. My great-grandparents come from Bayangi, they come from Ejagham, and migration took us to the land of Calabar, where I belong to distinctively 3 clans. I come from Qua Clan. I come from Qua Clan, and I also come from Bakor Clan here in Calabar. I belong to the royal families that established these clans. Up until the period when the colonial master came and occupied Calabar. Like I'm sitting here on the hilltop, which the Qua people gave to the colonial masters to establish colonial governance. I am proudly a bona fide son of the Qua people. My father is the late Magistrate Solomon Edet, and by extension, my mother from William Oqua family in Accra. That's the Ga people. So you can see I'm international.
Yes, you are. Very nice history. So, you've not told us when you were born.
Yeah.
What year was that? And how old are you now?
As a prince, I don't disclose my age, but I can tell you I was born in the 50s, very early 50s.
When is your birthday, sir?
My birthday is January 25th. I grew up among these 3 clans, the Iqba, the Bakor, and Qua Clan, and by extension Ejagham, where I attended the West African People Institute, Calabar.
From what year to what year, sir?
From 1968, I guess, up until 1974, when I left to find a job. That took me to Lagos, where I was fortunate to have a job with the National Museum then, now National Commission for Museums and Monuments.
Okay, sir. Since you have introduced that one, can you tell us all the places you have worked? From what period to what period?
Yeah, after my...
And the post you have held until.
Yeah. After my primary school days in Bakor, like I said, I attended the West African People Institute. And then from there, I started fending for myself. Life wasn't easy. If you don't travel out, you can't get a job. Calabar, after the colonial times, became a sleepy city where no job creation. You have to travel out to a place like Lagos to find jobs. So I was fortunate to find a job with the National Museum in Lagos, where I grew up in that profession as a technical staff, work assiduously and work conscientiously with all my heart and my mind until I was able to attain the level of training as a technical assistant. in Jos Museum School. That is where I acquired the skills required of a technician to work in a museum. Unfortunately, today all these special schools that were there to train skilled workers, like for the museum, are no longer very strong, and are no longer managed by skilled and trained personnel. But I tell you, I was one of the very fortunate ones to be trained very well in the museum field and successfully migrated into the professional cadre of curatorship that took me to the University of London. I was in the University of London for 4 years to train as an archaeologist, specializing in archaeological conservation and material science. From there I came back to work for the museum.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. Those good old days, when you go training, you don't come back. But I can say proudly and happily that I was one of those uniquely that returned to Nigeria in the 80s. In fact, that was when the very month the head of state, military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, took over power. One of the first flights from London back to Lagos, I was there to come back and serve my country. And I'm very proud to say that right from then, I've received several training outside. I've lived around 25 countries of the world, lived and worked, got my training, 14 years academics outside this country. I am very proud of myself and happy that those good old days was for people to train, come back and help the country grow. And this is how I acquired all my knowledge up until this level that after leaving the museum, I worked with the university. I first worked with Ebonyi State University and then got into adjunct with the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, and left there to Ahmadu Bello University on visiting for the last 5-6 years. And I am proud to say that I continue to work with the University of Calabar. I hope I should be able to attain my professorship cadre in that university.
At the moment, what do you do, sir?
At the moment, like I said, I work at the Basianda Institute on Secondment under the University of Calabar. And I conduct a lot of research in the Cross River region, particularly on the Cross River monoliths.
Yes, that's why we are here for the interview.
The Cross River monoliths. And I am proud to say that the Cross River region was established traditionally, culturally, on the basis of stone culture.
Okay, so we'll get to that.
Yes.
Can you just lead us into what antiquities are? What museum and antiquities are?
That's interesting. Antiquities are basically cultural properties. Cultural properties that are systematically collected, documented, conserved, preserved to promote the history of any community, any nation, to promote the people of the world, and to serve as their identity. That is antiquity. And therefore, government now established museums where collections of antiquities are preserved, documented, and presented in exhibition, seminars, and expositions that will say something about all these communities that occupy Nigeria and indeed the world. So therefore, you see, antiquities constitute the museum collection. Antiquities are objects, artifacts, things that involve in cultural traditions of the people, and they are meant to be collected, documented, preserved, analyzed, and interpreted. So it has a special place in any community, any nation or group of people. It tells their story. That are the significance of antiquities.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You say you're from Bakor. You must have heard about His Majesty Ntue Oqua II.
Yeah.
Do you know how old were you when you were? Have you met him? How was he like?
Interestingly, you see, those good old days when you see your chief, you adore and appreciate him. Because when you see him coming, when you see him seated, when you see him in action, he doesn't look ordinary. I remember His Royal Majesty Ntue Oqua II of Bakor Town in Calabar was such an influential and prominent chief, because apart from the fact that he received wide recognition from his communities, that is the entire Qua Clan, he was also recognized by the colonial government. I remember when I was a child, we see him coming in his royal wheelchair. You quickly recognize that that is a chief, that is a ruler, that is a natural ruler, a king among kings. So when he comes, you bow your head as he is being, taken around, and you go to see him. Like I was very fortunate to have been somehow close to him through my grandmother. On 2 occasions, I can remember.
Oh, so grandmother's name?
Madam Ntue Ekorodo of Bakor Town asked me one day, on 2 occasions, to take iwabad, that is tapioca prepared specially, and nsango, the fruits that is used in eating tapioca, to Ntue in his palace. I remember carrying that tapioca on my head and the nsango as a combination of this special traditional cuisine, if you like, to Ntue. Immediately I entered the back of his palace. He was there seated, and he asked that somebody should take the tray and the content into the house. Apart from that, I have heard so much about him because he was a chief who jealously guided his community. He was a chief who always say, and people also say, that this kind of Ntoe that was always jealously guiding his community, if in the end he is dead, we may not find this kind of or another Ntoe like him. That interpretation people don't understand. I tell you, that was a man that was always protecting his community by going around either in the night or the day to watch the night for his community, to watch the day for his community, to watch the spiritual life of his community, and to ensure that he built that contact with his ancestors. He built that connection with his community and his ancestors to keep life going, to keep our cultural traditions, and to watch our behaviors, and to make both the old and the young recognize the importance of preservation of our cultural property and our own way of life. Ntue Kaika was very unique, indeed very unique. I remember so many shrines around Bakor today. Urbanization has destroyed these shrines. That Ntue Kaika was very careful to ensure that libation and cultural practices are observed around these shrines that particularly poor people maintained and kept at that time.
Thank you very much, sir. Very strong, very strong narrative.
Yeah.
Ntue Kaika was nominated into the National Antiquities of Nigeria.
Yes.
By the government, federal government then. And are you aware that he is the one who caused this museum building in Calabar to be built?
His Royal Majesty Ntue Kaika was a member of the Antiquities Commission. That I came to learn. He was a member of the Antiquities Commission. Antiquities Commission at that time were involved in the preservation of Nigeria's cultural property. Were involved in building museums, were involved in ensuring that anthropologists, historians, archeologists were involved in building museums and preserving artifacts for posterity. Deep down back, even outside Nigeria, he was involved in ensuring that the Ejagham cultural property were collected and preserved both in Nigeria and the Cameroons. He traveled far and wide into Cameroon, especially when we learned he was a policeman in Manu division of the Cameroons. He did a lot to unite the Ejagham people. He did a lot to ensure that Ejagham cultural property were collected and preserved, though many of them today are found in foreign museums in Europe and America, and also in international art market. But Ntue Kaika was one of those prominent ones that attempted to ensure museums were built and our cultural properties preserved.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the expose. Because I remember as a history student in Oqua, we came to this museum, the Calabar Museum, and most of the facts and pictures are done the museum as Calabar Province, as Calabar. But in the 80s, we came back and all those things had disappeared. I don't know how that came to be. But I know you will not have an idea, sir. Have any idea?
Oh, well, look, let me tell you. Let me say this before I conclude. Ntue Kaika Oqua II was one that also engaged himself in preserving his own collection, including the community's collection. If you go to his beautiful palace in Bakor, you will find an awful lot of collection made by Ntue Kaika Oqua II, now preserved in his palace. And that becomes a royal museum of Ntue Kaika Oqua.
Yes.
Indeed, a living museum. Because from time to time, the family goes to expose it and let people see it and try as much as possible to preserve those collections. Well, for collections that were collected at that time, we have learned that many of those collections were stolen. The They all go into museums in Europe. They all go into the international art market. And when you talk about masterpieces of antiquities in Nigeria, you find most of them in foreign museums, despite all the attempts to collect them and preserve them in Nigeria. Most of those masterpieces are found outside Nigeria. And therefore, that takes me to this issue of reparation, return and restitution of cultural property. I am very happy that the National Commission for Museums and Monuments are involved, particularly Professor Tijani, the upcoming and hardworking man, is trying to see how this issue of reparation, return and restitution of Nigeria's cultural property is systematically conducted. Today we are proud to hear and to know that many of these repatriated objects are now beginning to arrive in Nigeria under the able leadership of Professor Tijani. Thanks goes to him and NCMM that we are beginning to figure out the reparation issues of our cultural property.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's talk about the Bakor Monolith. I know you are after Dr. Acholono, you are one of the people who have been working on this monolith in their locations and making the international world to know. So what about the Bakor Monolith? What is it about the Bakor Monolith?
Thank you very much. I think Bakor Monolith is one of these wonderful rock arts that exist in the Cross River region. I am particularly involved in that research because over the years, I would tell you over 30 years, I've been working in that region, trying to preserve the Cross River monoliths.
The regions, can you mention the regions? Where are they located?
The Cross River monolith are exclusively found in the upper Cross River region among the Bakor people. The early anthropologists call them Bakor Monolith. Some call them Cross River Monolith. But recent research into rock arts in the Cross River region and across Nigeria, we now realize that it's useful to put it in their proper perspective. To call the rock arts monoliths in the Cross River region Bakor Monoliths. Not that there are no other monoliths around the Cross River region. There are. But we have to start with the origin of these cultural artifacts, which we have discovered to be the Bakor, among the Bakor people. Bakor has 6 sub-ethnic groups that 1,500 years ago people existed and worked on that cultural property called the Cross River monoliths. Monoliths are rock artworks produced from single stones between half a meter to 1.5 meters. They exist among the Ntoe, Nde, Nsle, Ebanyom, Nam, and the Kajuk people. Particularly, and these are the 6 sub-ethnic groups in Bakor Upper Cross River region. Like I said earlier on, these rocks have existed there for over 1,500 years ago. My mentors, Professor Ekboyo, had done test excavations and dated them back to about 1,500 years ago. My mentor, Kit Nicklin, an ethnographer, had worked among these sub-ethnic groups. And my research coupled with Archelanu's findings, I believe strongly that those stones are well over 5,000 years ago. Because during the sedentary period, people engaged themselves in producing arts in stones. First settlements, you find stones as one of these cultural artifacts, which went with the early settlers. And they moved with it. And that takes us now to the stone traditions of our people, from Bakor right down, that is Upper Cross River region, to the lower, where other stone cultures, traditions began to migrate. We have migration stones, like in Ntoe. Ntoe has a stone. And Ntoe stone migrated, like we migrated from the Cameroons. We migrated from Mbakang. We migrated from all other axes where you find the Ejagham people that settled. We migrated, as we migrated, our people migrated with Ntoe stones. As we migrated, our people migrated with royal stones. As we migrated, both men and women migrated with edge sets and their stones. Stones are very important cultural artifacts that are used to first establish a settlement. I can probably say that in every Ejagham community, prominently, you will find that to establish a settlement, there will be stones.
Very expository.
And all other ethnic groups that, as a result of cultural migration and fusion, they also got involved in stone culture and traditions, like the Foot people, like the Efik people, and all other cultural traditions that came from the Upper Cross River region down to the lower. And that takes my mind back to this issue of, if you look at the aesthetic arts of stones, some of these aesthetics have been transferred into wood, which in the lower Cross River region, like the Oronese, that is the Oron people, the Oqua carvings have reflections of the aesthetic qualities of the Cross River region monoliths. Because they don't have stones here, they resolve to use blocks of wood to feature carvings of ancestors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Any advice for the youth? Any advice for the course? Any advice for the Ejagham people?
My advice is general. The archaeology of the Cross River region is still in its doldrum. It is still in the sharps of the forest. No research. The history of the Cross River region, no proper research has been done. Most of the research is done is desktop research. We have to go back to the forest, we have to go back to our community, we have to go back to our environment to do the appropriate research of the people of the Cross River region, wherever you come from. Not only the Ejagham people, not only the Qua people, not only the Upper Cross River people, it is both from the Upper Cross River region to the lower. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Okay, viewers, you have heard everything from Dr. Abu Solomon, an archaeologist, a monolith researcher, a lecturer, he's a man of many parts. He has given us an expose into so many different things. So, we would like to say, watch, learn, and further continue the research he has proposed. So till I come back with the next interview on a different topic, I say goodbye. Thank you very much.
I'm Baba,